Last night I watched the James Bond movie from 1997, Tomorrow Never Dies, featuring Remington Steele as James Bond. And I have to say that I would say that this film is something like 80 to 85% disposable. Um, it's maybe enjoyable in a disposable way, if that's your kind of thing. But I wanted to hone in on the aspects of the film that I found interesting, especially in retrospect. This is a movie about how the media drives and manipulates the news for its own ends. It features a media mogul type that could be Rupert Murdoch. It could be Ted Turner. It's played, the role is played by Jonathan Pryce, whom you might remember was the person in the crowd last year at the Academy Awards who was mighty unhappy with Ricky Gervais. Um, he's the villain in this movie. He may well be a villain in life too, judging by how he responded to Gervais taking digs at Hollywood pedophiles and so forth. But putting that aside, um, Price plays this media mogul type who is a globalist and is in his way an idealist. Of course, he's, as I said, megalomaniacal. It's all for his own ends. It's all for his own glory that he's doing these things, launching these. It's not. This is just pre-internet, so he has a line of newspapers and I think maybe like a CNN type, 24-hour newscasting site for television, and he's all over the world and doing. He has these armed mercenary thugs who manipulate acts of aggression, who make it seem like certain countries are attacking other countries, and they have access to their own equipment, so he in his own way is pushing the news forward towards a particular end, and that's especially for a James Bond villain. That's not the typical thing that you see. It's not. He's not somebody who has an underground lair where he's going to destroy the world and and take over. The Dr. No Blofeld type. It's different from that, and again, it seems to be a moment of what I would say. I've heard it called a truth drop. I don't really like that term. What do we call it? It's a moment where those who bring us, those in the media who bring us what we need to know, what we're told to believe, what we're told to think, what we're told to feel, a moment where I prefer a revelation of the method, a moment where they reveal something about what's actually going on in a way that you would think they wouldn't do. Just like with the Hunger Games, which I discussed a couple of weeks ago, I think. How dubious I was at first to hear that the Hunger Games was some kind of blueprint for for what the elite has planned for the future. The Agenda 21 style, Great Reset style neo-feudalism that they seem to be so enamored of and seem to very fanatically want to manipulate events to bring about. This was, of course, earlier along. This was still the roaring 90s, which, seems very innocent by comparison. But I think what's interesting about the movie is you still get a peek behind the curtain at the kinds of characters who are, in some ways running the show. Now, the Jonathan Pryce villain character in this movie is maybe supposed to be seen as a kind of rogue figure. But I think that he's someone who has amassed so much power that and he's obviously working against the national interests of various countries. Doing his best to, in many cases, egg on war, bring about conflict, and through this conflict, of course, comes this rising like a phoenix. There will be a greater world, and he has a speech where he even discusses, his vision for the future, and it is straight up globalism. Globalism wasn't really a term that was used as often back then, and it didn't really have the same kind of connotations that it has now when people use the term globalism. It's a much more weighted term, more weighted and freighted term now than it was, 25 years ago. Another interesting thing about the movie, and this is a much smaller detail, but it's one that really made me perk up my ears. There's a moment in which it's one of those ridiculous, stupid moments where the villain's henchman has the hero James Bond, at his mercy. He's armed. He's not the villain. The villain's henchman is armed. James Bond is just there, helpless, prisoner. And what he could do is just shoot him. He should just shoot him. But instead of shooting him, he has to explain to him who he is and what he's about to do and why he's going to do it, and give James Bond enough time to work out a way to escape from his clutches. So it's another one of those stupid things that you so often see. But in this moment where this villain's henchman is talking to James Bond, telling him what his specialties are, what kind of things he's into, he talks about how that they call on him to stage suicides. All right. And this is a time in the movie where the villain's wife, who's an old flame of James Bond and who had a fling with Bond, of course, just before she was put to death by the villain, played by Terry Hatcher. She's lying dead on the bed, and the villain's henchman is telling Bond, I specialize in double suicides. I'm the one who I can shoot you from anywhere and make it look like you shot yourself. And he also adds, and I also specialize in celebrity overdoses. And I was like, wow, this is 1997, probably filmed a little bit earlier, maybe filmed in 96 even, because usually that's often the case. Something gets filmed and shelved for a few months. So we're talking like 2 years or so after Cobain. And I don't think at the time, maybe there were some whispers about Cobain's supposed suicide. But I don't recall there being that much. At least, I was more in normie circles at the time, and then I just sort of thought, yeah, of course it was suicide. I hadn't looked at the evidence as I have now and seen that suicide is well nigh impossible, pretty much, in the case of Kurt Cobain, for reasons I won't get into right now, but you can look it up yourself and decide for yourself on the subject. Anyway, I just thought it was really strange that he would throw that in, that they would throw that stray line in there. It was like a little bit more of a revelation of the method, a little bit more of a peek behind the curtain. Just on a minuscule level, it just goes by really fast. But there it is. I specialize in celebrity overdoses. What other celebrity overdose could one summon to mind in 1996, 1997 besides Kurt Cobain? That was it. That was the big celebrity, suicide, quote unquote, due to overdose, due to simultaneous heroin overdose and shooting oneself in the mouth with a shotgun at an impossible angle. But I said I wasn't going to go into that. Anyway, just another really weird, interesting way in which this movie, this genre film, this James Bond film that's, again, mostly disposable, with lots of stupid stunts and kind of boring car chases and just kind of ho-hum stuff. Yet they have these particular aspects that seem to be leading the audience in a direction that suggests a mind to exposing truth, again with this revelation of the method kind of style that I believe they just have to do. It's like part of the law of the way things work. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, if you've seen the movie, if you remember the movie, if you remember this character. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. Check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.